Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's go to Goodrich Castle. Goodrich Castle is a Norman medieval castle which is ruined, and it is north of the village of Goodrich in Herefordshire in England. It was a key location between Monmouth and Ross and Wye, and has been described as one of the most splendid in the country and one of the best examples of English military architecture. It's currently owned by English Heritage. It is open to the public. It was initially an earth and wooden fortification, and in the middle of the 12th century the original castle was replaced with a stone keep and was then expanded significantly during the late 1300s. Goodrich was finally successfully besieged by Colonel John Birch in 1646 with the help of the huge Roaring Meg mortar. Thus it became a ruin. By the end of the 18th century, Goodrich became noted for a picturesque ruin and the subject of many paintings and poems, including Wordsworth's famous 1798 poem We Are Seven. The castle itself appears to have been in existence by 1101, when it was known as Godric's Castle, a local Anglo-Saxon thane and landowner mentioned in the Domesday Book of 1086, although some believe it dates back further to pre-Norman conquest days, the days of King Canute. Goodrich Castle became the scene of one of the most desperate sieges during the English Civil War in the 1640s, which saw the rival factions of Parliament and the King vie for power across England. Yeah, that's all the boring history stuff out of the way. Let's have some fun here. Goodrich Castle! The walk from the centre to the castle isn't huge. It's quite a decent walk. The castle behind me, as you can see, isn't quite finished yet. They've been building it for about 300 years, something like that. And it takes a while. I mean, lugging stuff up this road wouldn't help. But anyway, it's getting there, isn't it? You can see what it looked like when it's actually done. It's very pretty. From every angle, this looks a little bit like a castle. Obviously, when you live in a castle, entertainment is very important. So here they've built a Roman amphitheatre, but they've only got 2 rows in at the minute, but that's because no one lives here yet, so they don't need it to go any higher. But as it gets higher, they will have more. And they're building the changing rooms as well for the actors and everything, which is nice. If you like steps, but not too many of them, you can do worse than come here, because they have got steps, but there's not that many of them. Not like Whitby. Christ. Now, you know I like a good archway, and this looks like a good long archway. And as you can see, it's designed with safety in mind. Bit annoying if you forget your keys, because there is one door there, another door there, another door there.
They weren't very happy about that. So he had to go back to France. They were after him. The English are.
Another door here, another door here, and then finally you're in the castle. Can you imagine you've been on Lash and you forgot to bring your keys, or you've left your keys at home, or you've lost them in the pub? Oh, that'd be a nightmare getting in. One thing I do like about historic buildings is the fact that they like to kill people in unusual ways. For example, there's a door there that if you walk through, you would plunge to your death. Epic! As we're very near to Wales, they have their own chapel as well, which is very nice. It's very cold in here. I wish I'd worn a coat now, I'll be honest with you. I didn't realise religion was such a chilly occupation, but apparently it is. And it's that bright outside, you can't see how beautiful the window is, and authentic, old-fashioned as well. See? That's genuine medieval art. They put the windows in before they put the walls up, because like I said, they're still building it. They've even got a fireplace here as well, which they haven't quite finished, because there's no chimney for it yet, but it's a work in progress. First step's quite a difficult one. This is where the vicar would stand and say, "Listen to what I say because I tell the truth." Fairy tales. They have some authentic cannonballs as well, which were made in Whitby. If you haven't seen the video for Whitby, you need to watch that one to see how they were made. Right, this room is very clever because when the building was originally being built, obviously it's still being built, but electricity hadn't been invented, has now, they've got lights, and this was the fridge. What they used to do is they used to keep all the lambs and the oxen and everything in here, alive, feed them, and then they'd just chop them up and eat them when they had them, so like an early fridge. And you can even, if you listen carefully, you can hear ghostly footsteps of the animals that used to be here. Sadly, they're all vegetarian now, so they don't need this room for animals. One reason why it's taken so long to build this castle, say they haven't finished it yet, is because the walls are incredibly thick. That's the outside, and then you've got all this to here, which is the inside. Which means basically your wall is like 12 foot thick, and that means you need a lot of stone, which means it takes ages to build, which if you ask me, it's a bit of a shitter. This is an interesting room because it goes full height to heaven. But it won't do, because when they finish building it, what they're going to do is they're going to put floors in. You can see the gaps they've left all the way around for the floors to be added at a later date. Possibly a roof as well, but I don't know. Might be another 200 years before they get around to putting a roof on this place. It's already took them 500 years to get this far. Now all castles, if you want to call it that, they need good security, and the best one is to have a moat, which is a big area around the building full of water, because back in the day people couldn't swim, so it was a perfect excuse to keep people out. Sadly, due to the water shortages, they're not allowed to use water here. The water authority won't allow it. Just imagine, hosepipe bans are bad enough. This is security at your house. It's like having very sure counselled. Got a fireplace there as well, which is not much good at the minute because it's quite a long way from the ground, but like I say, when they put the floors in, that'll be perfect. If you ever watched Grand Designs when they're forever changing their mind and the builders are getting really wound up because they don't want that room and they want it 3 inches bigger or 2 inches smaller or 1 inch high or whatever, and they have to knock the whole thing down to build it all again. Well, they're doing that here as well, because look, you can see what was an original roof line, and then you can see another roof line as well. So this is like Grand Designs before Grand Designs. If you like dark corridors, you're in luck as well. Imagine there's plenty of them in here, including this one. It's not very long, but sizes and everything. If you like bats, you can come here because they have loads of bats, but they're disguised as birds so they can come out at daytime, which I think is really clever. That's evolution for you. It's fantastic. If you couldn't be bothered going down to the amphitheatre, you can always watch from up here. It's free, but you have to be careful because the rocks up there are a bit dangerous still yet. They haven't quite finished building this bit. Even the birds are educated here. they all have a toilet each. Beautiful. The views are quite spectacular. We're that high up, it's almost like being on a hill. We're directly above where the doors are that I showed you earlier. You can see the drop there, takes you into it. But if you forget your keys, they've actually put in a handy key dropper as well, so they can drop your keys to you. But just make sure you catch them and they don't eat you on the air because they'll brain you. If you like spiral staircases, you've got this authentic one from 1012. Got a dungeon as well. Says it's dark down here, I don't agree. Got a vaulted ceiling, which is nice. And I've got a cat litter tray thing at the back, so you can use that as a toilet. There is one flaw with this prison though, and that is it's easy to get out of. Now they're proud of this part of the building because this is a bit that they want to keep, apparently. But it's quite tall, quite high up. But the good news is they've got stairs. So let's have a look. Scratch what I said about staircases earlier. Oh my God. So I made it to the top of the bit that they want to keep, and they've named it Top of the Keep. It must have taken ages to come up with that. See in the distance there, you can see me not, but I can. There are the teepees for the navvies who are building this at the moment. I've been told that if they finish it off within the next 100 years, they'll get proper wooden huts, but for the time being, because they're that slow, they're only having tents, which is alright in this weather, but not so good under normal circumstances. But the view from up here is actually quite good as well, because the foreman stands here and tells people what to do. The sign says dark and narrow staircase. I'll be the judge of that. It's in pitch black, bendy and narrow, and it is a staircase. They've got a mood board up, which basically tells you what the room's going to look like when it's finished. So this is going to be the kitchens. It's not very hygienic at the moment. Hopefully they're going to do something to make it a bit more hygienic. And it's handily not far away from where the fridge was, so that's kind of cool as well. I think they're just waiting for the chippies to come, put the floors in. That's probably what it is. That might be what's holding it up. But currently what's going to be the dining room, they were going to have the kitchen diner together, but apparently by the time they build this that won't be fashionable anymore, so they're keeping the dining room separate from the kitchen area. But to be fair, if it's this big, it probably doesn't make any difference. Even back in the day they knew the importance of solar power, and this here is a solar power generated, based loosely off the one off Goldeneye, off of the TV show James Pond. It's a massive unit, and when it works it's going to produce enough energy to light 4 candles. We're getting lower now. We're getting near the moat, which thankfully we can go into because of the water shortage. So every cloud and all that, although technically there aren't any, which is what caused the problem in the first place. Oh. If you like holes a long, long, long way away, that's very, very high up, and that's a tiny hole. And it is a portal that basically takes you to, well, heaven, if it existed. Now, as we know, when you're making energy in this solar power plant that they're making, safety first and all that. So they've actually got a fire extinguisher here, which is basically water comes in here, you get a bucket and then you chuck the water on whatever it is burning because it's gone wrong. But it is early days, new technology and all that, so you know, you're going to have a few accidents. At least they're thinking ahead. Right, this part here is the moat. Now, not many people know this, but the French invented the moats back in 552, and this one was made in France and shipped over in bits around about 1673. It has been finished, but like I say, water shortage and all that. Obviously the money's run out for fixing this and making it well, habitable. So what they're doing is they're raising money by letting tourists come in and have a look around. And if you come in on a day when they're actually working, you can actually help build it as well. There's a volunteer, which is nice, but I don't do anything for nothing, so I'm not joining in on that one. From here you can see how seamlessly the bits of the moat that come from France actually adjoin the building. It's really, really well done. It's better than on this side, which is a little bit more rough and ready, but to be fair, attackers wouldn't be able to see that because they'd be on top of that. So, you know, it's a bit like you don't make your back garden look as good as your front garden because who am I to talk? That's the top of the keep, and this is the bottom of the keep, which they're also keeping. But they need to keep the bottom, otherwise the top would fall off. You don't want to see anything with the top off, especially me. That's the toilet block, because even if you live in a castle you still need to go to the toilet, and that's the discharge hole that discharges into the moat. But obviously because of the lack of water, they're not allowed to use the toilet anymore, so they're using a bucket and then shipping it off to a nearby farm for the pigs to eat. Sounds yummy. There's another archway that the other archway is the entrance and stuff, but this one is where the bats live. You know, the bats disguised as birds, they live here. It's quite nice for a bird hut. Technically bats. You can hear them doing the squeak squeak, so they know where they are. See? They won't crash into me because they use solar phonics, I don't know. You've also got doors and windows that are doors and windows and doors and windows. On this side it's a door, on the other side it's a window. Faulty death. In the older days, they used to pour oil on people, hot oil, or rocks, and shoot arrows at people who were being, well, naughty, trying to get into the building. But here, they don't do that. This is the most dangerous spot in the entire building, because this is directly above or below the bat lair. So basically, they're going to poo on you. So I'm not staying here for long, because the bat poo stinks. A final example of what I would call grand designism is this here, which originally was going to be a doorway, then it was going to be an arched window, then it was going to be a square window, and then it was going to be a window with a bit in the middle. but they took too much light out, so they took that bit out and they might knock it all through again. They haven't decided yet. I'll ask Kevin when I see him. There was a very popular person who lived here but sadly passed away before it was finished. She was very popular, particularly with the fellas, and they've named this cannon after her. She was called Meg. So they've got a handy map as well, which you can take a picture of and walk around. And that's what it's going to look like when it's actually finished, but obviously with a roof on. But sadly at the moment, like I say, it's still a building site. But there you go, what can you do? Right then, so if you want to come somewhere that's still being built but you're allowed to go in and have a look around, you can even give a hand if you can be arsed. I couldn't. And you want to do something like climb some very narrow, scary stairs that take you top of the bit where they're definitely going to keep. I can only assume that they keep changing their mind, you know, doing, like I said before, the grand designisms of the whole thing. But they're definitely keeping that bit. The moat from France, the beautiful scenery. You can do a lot worse than come here. Probably. It's not cheap though. It was £11.80 and £3 for parking. Ooh. But it's free if you're a member of English Heritage, is it? Is it National Trust? No, English Heritage. It's free. You get a free bit of paper as well to recycle when you get home. So yeah, other than that, decent day out. I dare say the kids will love it, because who doesn't like going on a building site? Until next time, bye! Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's go to